Good morning and welcome to another episode of Speed Tribe X. Today we are going to look at the Mercedes Benz that gave Ferrari, Lamborghini, McLaren and Porsche a run for their money. The Mercedes Benz AMG GTS. This car has a 4-liter twin-turbo V8 pushing 507 horsepower and 479 pound-feet of torque. Remember, this is a twin-turbo V8. A McLaren 570S has a twin-turbo V8. The Ferrari 488 has a twin-turbo V8. And this is a Mercedes-Benz. This car is replacing the legendary Mercedes-Benz SLS AMG. A car with a 6.3-liter naturally aspirated V8. That was the only Mercedes-Benz that was an actual performance race car. This is the successor to that car. This is one of the most good-looking Mercedes-Benzes ever. Because most Mercedes-Benzes look like sedans and all those type of sorts, right? Like an old man's car. This car looks amazing. It will hold its own parked right next to a 911 GT3 or McLaren 650S. This car looks great. And if you can see, right, the front, this splitter plus this grille makes this car look super aggressive. And these headlights look awesome with the LEDs on. Now you see, this car looks really good. It's a car that looks aggressive and will hold its own against a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, but it doesn't look too obnoxious. Unlike a Ferrari or a Lamborghini, you could drive this thing to a business meeting at 9 a.m. and then take it to the track at 6 p.m. So as you can see on the sides, this comes with 19-inch AMG alloys on the front and 20-inch AMG alloys on the back. And the side profile of this car with this grille, which is not real, is pretty good, right? It looks like a strong, muscular car. This hunch at the back looks absolutely great. And with the wing up, right, this is an active wing. How about we see this wing in action before I continue? Okay, so after you saw the wing, which was really, really cool, now you can see these lights. These are the running LED lights. I have no idea if these should be turned on in the daytime or not, but they look sick, and if I bought the car, I would turn them on like they are on the front. So the design in the back is a bit subdued, but a lot strong, right? Because this car has the wing up, which makes it look super aggressive. If it had the AMG GTR wing, it would just look perfect, which a lot of people just swap this out for. And this car from the back looks absolutely great. It really, from the back, this car is the successor of the SLS AMG. And that is great. So as you can see, we can come to the underside of this car and you can look at those cars are for other videos that we'll be doing here. Now let's focus on this car, okay? So as you can see, this car is really nice. It ties it in very well. And these dual exhausts, which are not fake, there are exhausts inside of them. If you can see, there are exhausts inside. But this part is sort of a surround, which is kind of what all the new AMGs do. But regardless, even the SLS AMG had this. And how about we hop in to the interior of this car? Okay, so now we are in the interior of the AMG GTS. And as you can see, this is a really nice place to be. There's leather everywhere. There are no squeaky materials. It's leather on the dashboard. The AC surrounds are silver, right? This thing to turn off and turn on The vents, everything is plush. There's no plastic. Even this thing, it's not plastic, but it's really nice. I don't even know what this is, right? And this to control the infotainment system. Here it's leather, right, to rest your hand, with the AMG, you know, falter both embossed on it. It's a really nice car. Let's start it up. Okay, so how about we hear these AMG exhausts scream? Let's go. So now the exhaust will be in normal mode. Now the exhaust will be in loud mode. Okay guys, just want to say, if you want to buy this car, you can always come to Safa Holdings Global's just Waze or Google Maps Deluxe Auto World, and you can come and check this car out. So now that we've turned on the car by pushing this starter button right here, you can see these buttons are arranged 4 on each side, which is actually to represent the V8 engine. So the first button up top here is to turn on and off the infotainment system. The second button is for the gearbox, to put it in manual or automatic. The third button is to turn on auto start stop, which just should be off all the time. The fourth button is the exhaust button, which is the button that makes your exhaust louder every single time you want it to. Then on the bottom here is your suspension button. On top of that is your traction control off button. If you press it one time, it puts the traction control in sport, which allows the car to play a little bit, but not full on drift out. But if you hold it, it will turn off traction control, and then you're on your own. People who only know what they're supposed to be doing are the only people who should turn that off. Then there's the engine start stop, the button you use to turn on the beast. And then here's your mode selector, which feels great. Now I can't tell you how it, I can't show you how it feels, but it's just like a click, 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 and it's Sport Plus. The exhaust is automatically on loud mode, which is awesome. Now these seats are, or if we come to the seats, they are so good. They're customizable in so many ways. You know, the seat is fully low now. For someone like me, that's great. But if you're a short ass, you can just push this up and it'll go high as hell, right? And the interior of this car is pretty spacious, which is awesome. And the seat, you can raise the front a little bit. You can get it to the exact dimensions you want. And if you push the seat a bit too back, it'll automatically adjust the backrest so it doesn't hit the part of the back which has a brace and joins to the boot, which we will get to in a while. Now this is the steering wheel, where the top part is leather, the bottom part is leather. The paddles are aluminum paddles, which are just great. This part is just it's from a normal car, which is a bit disappointing, but this part, the metal around it, is awesome. The Alcantara feels great, surprisingly. And you have a traditional gauge cluster, because even though this car is from 2015, so you know, the gauge cluster is analog, right? Since this is an imported UK car, which you can come to Safa Holdings Deluxe Auto World if you want to buy it, it's in miles per hour, which goes up to 220 miles per hour. And the tachometer also both analog, which I think actually looks really good. And then this car has done about 29,000 kilometers. Why is that in kilometers? I don't know. But there's a small kilometer or speed on the top. And the steering wheel feels great, right? There's a plus minus for your audio, the up down for your tracks. And if you're wondering where your heated seat buttons is, which this car has, considering how tight and great these seats hold you, that's awesome. Or up here, right? You can adjust them to 3 different levels. And if you're in Malaysia, I don't think you'll ever use them unless you go to Genting, which you should if you buy this car, because it's going to be great. Then you have your hazards here. And your parking sensors to turn on and off your parking sensors. This is your AC controls, right? This is to turn on and off your AC. This is to decrease and increase the temperature. 2-zone climate control, one for the driver and one for the passenger. The infotainment system, right? Your standard AMG infotainment system. This infotainment system is the one in the new Aston Martins. If you didn't know, right? You go to media, you check that out. Nothing's connected, right? You can go to radio, right? And you can turn on everything. You can change the radio station. And these are to raise and lower your fan speed. This is to raise and lower the temperature on the passenger side. And this button is just, if you push it, it straight goes to like full blow AC, all on your face type stuff, right? And you have cup holders. I mean, this is, yes, a luxury sports car, but this is a Mercedes Benz. And you have 2 pretty decent sized cup holders in here with a 12-volt socket. And on a sports car, that is more than enough. Then you have this little storage compartment where I've kept the key. It has 2 USB ports, another 12-volt socket, an SD card slot. Yeah. So you can really charge your stuff in this thing if you wanted to. Well, that actually makes this one of the most practical cars ever. Because if you go to any other car, you don't have any of that. But that's why it's a Mercedes Benz. And this is the tiny little gear lever, right? You push it twice down for drive, and then you push it twice up for reverse, and you push it once for neutral on each side. And for park, you push this button. It's weird because you have to get into this awkward position to drive, and I'm sitting really far back. If you were sitting, let's say, you know, you're a shorter guy and you're sitting, this is really awkward. So this is probably the only complaint I have about this interior. But other than that, this car is actually really good. I was surprised, to be completely honest, because it has a big engine and produces a lot of power, right? And it's kind of the German muscle car, right? Big long hood, seats at the back, big V8. But German muscle cars drive well, not just in straight lines, unlike, I don't want to say too much, I guess. Okay, so one thing that's special about this car that a lot of other sports cars don't have is a sunroof, right? There's a glass roof, and the way they actually keep it lighter than most sunroofs is they have a manual sunroof closing thing where you just push and pull. But it's nice to have a sunroof because this is not just a full thoroughbred sports car, it's a GT car too, and you can do lots of miles in this, and having a sunroof in this really helps with making this car feel airy, because I felt it's airy, but it's not actually that big. But when you sit in it, you feel like it's a really big interior. So this is the 4-liter twin turbo AMG V8, and it's cool that they have this cover on it with the AMG in box, but it would have been a lot cooler if we could see the engines just like we can see those twin snails on it, which is really cool. But there's nothing much other than the fact that this engine makes 507 horsepower, 479 pound-feet of torque, made it to a 7-speed dual clutch gearbox that powers the rear wheels only. So this is a proper German muscle car that could kill you if you turn traction control completely off. And if you can see here, the name of the person who made the engine, which is Daniel Ray something. Daniel, if you're watching, you did a great job, and I hope you subscribe to Speed Tribe X, just like all of you should. Okay, so now we come to the back. You can, or to see the boot, right? You can either pop the boot by pressing a button in the front, or you can push and hold this button on the key fob, and then it'll unlatch, and you just pull it up like that, right? Nothing so-called interesting, other than the fact that it's full-on like soft carpet material in the car, and there is a Mercedes Benz first aid kit if you want to help someone on the side of the road. And it's a pretty big cargo space, but it's kind of flat, and if you don't want anyone seeing what you have inside, you can always just latch this and it'll block the window and no one will know what you have inside your cargo space. Which is really cool that they put this in a way where you could just kind of pull it off and it goes back, and it's just a lot easier, because if there's a boot lid cover that you take out and you store it somewhere else, you probably lose it because you never use it anyway. But this is really cool, and that bar across looks really cool. The interior from here looks really cool too. But yeah, that's it for the boot, I guess. Okay guys, that is it for today's episode of Speed Tribe X. For more content on sick cars like this, subscribe. You know that. I look forward to seeing you next time. Ciao.